Hello everyone and welcome back to Prodigal Overland. My name's Brad. If you're new here, welcome. Today's video is going to be all about tires, and what I'm going to be doing is answering in this video some of the most common questions I get related to tires. From what tire size should I be running, what type of tire, what brand of tire, and what tire pressure. I'm also going to let you guys know my favorite place to buy tires. So if you're interested in learning more about tires, stick around for this video and see what's coming next. Additionally, if you like this video, stick around to the end and I'm gonna let you guys know some easy ways that you at home can help us grow as a channel and kind of keep producing content like this. So when I first started researching off-roading in general, I knew nothing. So what did I do? I went to some of the online forums to see, I knew I needed good tires, so I wanted to see what kind of tires. I wanted to know how big of a tire I could put on my Jeep Grand Cherokee, what pressures I should be running at on the trail. And if you go by a lot of the forums, man, things can get pretty hot and heated over there with lots of strong opinions about what tire you need to be using, what pressure you should be running, and that sort of thing. So much so that you can almost feel like, man, if I don't get the right tire or I don't have the exact pressure that I should be running, I'm just gonna have a horrible time out there and it's all gonna be junk. Now, those are kind of, if you're just going by what you see online, the things in the comments that you might see. What I'm here to tell you is that those perceptions are not exactly what I have found through our miles and miles of off-roading and getting together with many different Jeep Grand Cherokee owners, other vehicle owners for off-roading. So what I thought I would do is take some of what we've learned and put it in this video to try to help you guys out. All right, so let's start with some of the most common questions that I get. I think the number one question I get on our trail videos is, what tire pressure were you running? Additionally, that's the question or the comment I get most frequently, is telling me I wasn't at the right pressure or I should have been at a different pressure. Which honestly, at this point, I think it's kind of funny because we've been doing this for a little while now and lots of different terrains, lots of different trails, and with actually lots of different Grand Cherokee owners and other vehicles, and I feel like by now I kind of have a sense on this whole thing. But anyway, feel free to leave those comments. Let me tell you guys what I've learned about tire pressures. And to get to really the pressure that you should be running, there's a couple things that you ought to consider instead of me just giving you a number, which is what honestly a lot of people like to do. A lot of people like to tell me 10 PSI is where I need to be at. And I'm gonna tell you why I think for our vehicle, that's not really what we wanna be doing. That being said, what do you need to consider when you're thinking tire pressures? There's really three things you need to know. Okay, number one is, how heavy is your vehicle? What are you driving? So our Jeep Grand Cherokee, because I've weighed it, comes in right around 6,500 pounds. So that's over 3 tons. In comparison, a 4-door Jeep Wrangler Rubicon comes right in around 4,500 pounds. A 2-door comes in right around 4,000 pounds. I did a little research on this. And if you're in the ultra lightweight class, my buddy Jeff has a Suzuki Samurai, and a stock Suzuki Samurai comes in just at 2,000 pounds. So he's running, now he's modified a lot, but a stock Samurai is around 2,100 pounds by comparison. So how much your vehicle weighs matters what kind of pressures you do. Another thing to take note is, what kind of tires do you have, and specifically how many ply. Is this a light truck tire? Light truck tires are going to be usually around 10 ply, so it's going to be a stiffer sidewall versus what we have, which is a 4-ply tire. Okay, and we're going to talk about here why you would go with a 4-ply over a 10-ply and vice versa. What's the difference between a 10-ply tire and a 4-ply tire? Now, a 10-ply tire can handle more of a load. So these are why they're called light truck tires, is they can handle higher load capacities for towing, for just cargo capacity, that sort of thing. With that, what you get with a 10-ply tire is more plies or more layers and a stiffer tire, versus a 4-ply tire, which typically will have a lower cargo capacity, weight bearing capacity. Now, we've been running 4-ply tires, Falcon Wild Peaks specifically, and we've not had any kind of issues with the load that we're carrying. However, if you have a 10-ply tire and a 4-ply tire, the main difference in airing down, so let's say I put 10-ply tires on my Jeep Grand Cherokee, I'm going to be able to air those down probably a bit more and not lose as much tire under my wheels. And I'm going to show you specifically what I mean with this in just a second. With a 10-ply tire, they're not as stiff, and so when you lower the pressures in a 4-ply tire, what you're going to see is that there's going to be more of that tire flattening than you're going to get with a 10-ply tire. Now, if you've got a really light vehicle, for instance, my buddy Jeff with his Suzuki Samurai that's probably all of 2,500 pounds, he had 10-ply tires on these things, and he went down to like 7 PSI, and we couldn't see one iota of a difference as far as his, like, visibly looking at the tire to see that it had changed at all. The reason for this is he had really stiff tires and a really light vehicle, and there's just not as much weight pushing down on the tires. So, if you're off-roading in something like a Jeep Grand Cherokee, believe it or not, you're probably at the higher end of what people use to go off-roading in, especially as compared to our other Jeep folk, okay? So I'm talking about Wrangler specifically. I should look up what a Gladiator weighs. Just one second. Okay, a Jeep Gladiator is right around 5,000 pounds. So between a Gladiator, a Wrangler, and a Grand Cherokee, or certainly a Cherokee, if you're rolling around in a Grand Cherokee, you are on the upper end of far as weight class in your vehicle. Now, if you're like us and you've added a lot of weight with the protection, if you happen to go off-roading with a family of 5 and have it loaded down with food and gear, then you're easily topping 6,500 pounds in a Jeep Grand Cherokee. So, when you're talking about pressures, if your buddy who drives a 2-door Wrangler tells you, oh, I always go to 10 PSI, and he's got 10-ply tires, and you try to go to 10 PSI with 4-ply tires, with your weight, I guarantee you, you're basically going to be rolling on your rims. And I know that because we've gone to low pressures, and I've seen this with my own eyes. All right, guys, so let me just kind of walk you through what I'm talking about here with the different tire pressures, okay? And also wheel sizes, because I didn't mention that yet. But these are 18-inch wheels, okay? These are actually the smallest wheels that I can go on my Jeep Grand Cherokee Trailhawk, because they have these HD brakes, the heavy-duty brakes, and actually a 17-inch wheel and smaller is not going to work with my vehicle. So these are actually the smallest wheels I can go. Now, if you're talking about strictly off-roading purposes, in general, a smaller wheel and a larger tire is going to work out better for you. And the reason for that is you can air these tires down and still have plenty of gap between your wheel and your tire. The problem you have when you go to these big wheels, I had a guy that was asking about, he had 20-inch wheels and wanted to know what pressure he should be going at. Now, just from the get-go, if you've got 20-inch wheels, you've got less tire between the ground and your wheel, okay? So you've got effectively have less to work with as far as cushioning and that sort of thing. What I had started to see when I was running tire pressures on trails around 17, 18 PSI was, sure, I had a softer ride, but I was starting to see a lot of kind of scarring and nicking on my wheel, and also within the tire wall itself, a lot of cuts, and I'll show you some of that in a little bit. And what was surprising to me is they were happening on trails that I would consider as easy. So I wasn't working really hard to climb, that sort of thing. And then one time, lo and behold, when I was editing one of our trail videos, I saw us out at an incline and my rear wheels and tires, my rims were pretty much just rolling across the rocks, and I realized that my tire pressure was so low that it was giving me all these cuts and scrapes across the wheel. All right, so here's kind of a close-up on our actual wheel, and you can see, hopefully, that there is a bunch of cuts kind of all along the side here. Right down through here. And then if you can also see right here, I've got kind of a nice cut in my sidewall. Now, as far as cuts in the sidewalls, thing to kind of note is that a lot of this is just superficial. Like, this is a superficial cut. It doesn't affect kind of the structure of the tire. If I were to see bubbling here in the sidewall, or if I could see kind of exposed ribbings, that would be an issue. But this is not good in that if, let's say, I took another direct hit right there, certainly there's less protection, but the structure of the tire, because it's not bubbling there, is okay. You can't replace or repair sidewalls effectively, so if you do have a good tear there, you have to replace the tire. So just to review, as far as tire pressures, you need to consider the weight of your vehicle, the size of your wheel, how much tire you have underneath, and the terrain that you're going over. Now, I will say, in sand, when you're in sand, I would be going probably down close to 15 at least. When you go lower, you run the risk of popping a bead lock or actually having the tire come off the wheel, which is not like an end all, but obviously you need to know how to try to get that back on, which I'm not going to cover in this video. So I've run around 15, 16 when we're in sand. Usually if it's a rocky terrain and I know I need ground clearance, then I'm gonna stay up above 20. So like I said, 24, something like that, because the lower your pressure, you're trading ground clearance for a softer ride, okay? If that doesn't matter, so if I don't need the ground clearance, then yeah, maybe I'm doing 22 or something like that to get the softer ride out of my tires because I don't need the ground clearance. So all this to say that there's a lot to consider when you're talking tire pressures, and so just to throw a blanket 10 PSI down or 15 or 20 or whatever that PSI, it doesn't really do anybody any good. You need to be able to consider all of those factors and kind of know where you want to be at. Tire sizes. So the stock size on a Trailhawk, a Grand Cherokee Trailhawk, is 265/60/18. This equates to about a 30.5-inch tire, if you're looking at it that way, okay? We currently have 265/65/18s, which is approximately equivalent to a 31.5-inch tire. The largest I've seen in our outings and that sort of thing was actually a 275/65/18 tire, and this was Beast Mode WK2. He's a good friend of ours, a patron of ours, and he had these out when we went to Bridgeport, Texas, okay? And as far as he knows, the previous owner did a little bit of trimming for the previous tires, but I do think the 275/65/18s will clear your wheel wells and that sort of thing. Now, here's another thing about that. A lot of people ask, will this tire fit? And so how do they test that? They stick them on, maybe. The videos I've seen have a Jeep parked in the driveway, some guys turning the wheel back and forth, maybe in the different or the lowest setting, and saying, look, it clears, okay? If you're using these for off-road purposes, this is not a fair test or an accurate test on whether something will clear or not, okay? There are all kinds of forces at play when you're driving. It's a dynamic situation, especially when you're going off-road, the off-camber, the loads that are put through your vehicle. And so I will say, regardless of tire size, of all the Grand Cherokees that we've had out with us, when I go look at under their wheel well, at that fender lining, the vast majority, regardless of tire size, have that well worn away if they've done any kind of off-roading, okay? Regardless of size. And I think that's just because of just the different kind of pressures and the off-camber situations, the stresses that your vehicle will hit off-road. All right, should you increase your tire size? Okay, some considerations to kind of think about. If your vehicle's under warranty, you might want to check with whoever sold you that your warranty, will it be void if you go up in tire size? Something to consider. Another thing to consider is where you're going to stick the spare. So if you increase the tire sizes on the four wheels hitting the ground, you also need to go up in your spare. Now for us, a 265/65/18 still fits in my back cargo area, the wheel well area. A 275/65 would not. And so that's why we decided to go with that. Now, if you've got something like a tire carrier on the back, a good buddy of ours has the Wilco tire system. I've seen that in action a lot, okay? And it does really well. So if you're considering that, it seems like a really good product. Like I said, I've seen it out on the trails, in action, off camber, slamming around, and it does very, very well. Anyway, if you've got that and some place to mount it, or if you don't need the cargo in your back, then by all means, go up. Or if you want to just throw it on top. So there are things to do, but you just need to kind of consider where's that spare tire going. So functionally, how does this play out on the trails? Okay, I will say that when we were out in the trails with Buddy, and he had the 275/65/18s, he also had the air suspension and also actually had the air links to kind of give it a little bit extra. And he was able to clear obstacles that we were brushing on. So there is a benefit to the larger tire. Now, I've heard, again, on some of these forums, people will be like, oh, the larger tire, it weighs so much more, it's gonna mess you up, you're gonna lose a lot that way. Well, I actually looked up some of the weights. Now, these are the weights on the Falken Wild Peak tires. So the stock size, 265/60/18, and the Falken Wild Peaks weighs 43.2 pounds. If you go to mine, 265/65/18, you're talking 46.1 pounds. So you're looking at a 3-pound difference per tire, 12 pounds total, okay? If you go 275/65/18, again in the Falken Wild Peaks, you're looking at just over 47 pounds. So if you go kind of the biggest I've seen without major cutting and that sort of thing to your vehicle, 275/65/18, and compare that to the stock size, you're looking at about 4 pounds per tire or 16 pounds overall. So again, considering all the other things you're gonna throw in your Jeep, that's not gonna make a huge difference. All season, all terrain, mud terrain. So let's talk all season versus all terrain versus mud terrain. Okay, now again, because we've been out with so many other Grand Cherokee owners, we're able to kind of see different tires in play, okay? I've seen the stock tire in play, I've seen BFG KO2s, Nitto Grapplers, General AT2s, and we also have the Falken Wild Peak. You know, anytime I hit mud, people tell me I need a mud tire. Now, I've hit mud in just a couple circumstances. And yeah, at that moment, I would prefer a mud terrain tire. However, mud terrain tires are gonna be louder on highway and they're gonna decrease your gas mileage a little bit. So something to keep in mind there. Also, in situations like sand, a mud terrain is not really what you're looking for, okay? When you're in sand, actually an all-season tire is gonna do probably just as good as an all-terrain tire. And really what it comes down to is surface area. So how much contact do you have with the sand? So if you've got a lot of big lugs, you actually have less tire surface area gripping that sand versus someone in an all-season tire who's got nice flat all season, lots of contact with that sand. And so, like I said, with sand specifically, the more surface contact you get, the better that works out for you, which is why you want to get your tire pressures low enough that you're actually riding on your sidewall. And let me show you that quick. So guys, when you're out in sand, at the dunes or whatever, you actually want your tires, and here's another reason we air down just in general, but specifically in sand, you're gonna want your tire pressure low enough that as your wheels are turning, you're definitely contacting these side lugs. And that's gonna, again, give you more surface contact with the sand, which is going to improve your tread. Now, like you said, I have, I have the all-terrain, so there's kind of lugs in there. A mud terrain is going to have even bigger, deeper lugs, which is going to reduce kind of that contact with the sand. But just in general, when we go out off-road, we are looking to be able to get the tire pressure low enough that we start to engage some of this sidewall, some of these lugs along the sidewall to give you extra traction. All right, let's talk about the last big common question I get. And you guessed it, it is, what brand should I get? So let's just say we're talking all-terrain tires, which seems to be kind of the most common step up from just the base all-season tire if you're going to go out off-road. Okay, now again, when you look on these online forums, there are some strong opinions about what kind of brand you get, and you can almost start to feel like, man, if I don't pick the right brand, my whole experience is going to be terrible. Not true. Okay, I have again been out with lots of different vehicles and vehicle owners and different tires, and got to see those tires perform on the same obstacles. Okay, and I have not once been able to see someone that could not get up an obstacle specifically because of the tires he was rolling in. Now, I have seen people struggle because of the line they picked or just their general knowledge of how to approach obstacles, but it was not due to the tire. That being said, if you find a good deal on tires from strictly a off-roading perspective, it probably doesn't matter too much. What you do want to consider is what kind of tire warranty is under them, what kind of road noise are people getting with these tires. Probably, and even with us, we are on pavement more than we are off-road. Now, that being said, we are off-road a bunch, okay? But still, it matters to me how the tire performs on road. How noisy is it? What's the grip like on wet roads and that sort of thing. Also, you know, I've had people and seen people say, well, these Falcon Wild Peaks, they get all kinds of cuts in the sidewalls, and I'm going to go to a different brand, okay? I was wondering the same thing too with my Falcon Wild Peaks, because I had gotten several cuts in the sidewall, and honestly, since I've not been running such a low pressure, I've seen that decrease. Okay, so I think probably the tire pressure really relates to that as well, because I guarantee from my own eyes I have seen plenty of sidewall cuts in BFG KO2s and Nito grapplers, and even the stock Wranglers, okay? It happens. They're all made from rubber, okay? Rubber against hard rock it's gonna slice, and so just to keep in mind. Now, I will say I have never had a blowout in one of my tires. So all the off-roading we've done, my 4-ply Falcon Wild Peak tires, we have never ever had a blowout. Now, often I'll come off the trail and I always inspect before and after my sidewalls to see what kind of cuts or anything I have to make sure they're safe. And we do get cuts. So if you have a tire that you off-road in a bunch and it's never gotten a cut in the sidewall, let me know. Put a comment below. All right, which brings us to what is my favorite place to buy tires. Now, I will say that I am a discount tire fan. We like them because they're national. So we travel across the country, and so pretty much I can always find a discount tire. They also give me free rotations, and they have this lovely certificate for repair program that you pay a little extra, and they will replace your tire if you have a blowout or something happened to that tire that they can't fix. So, i.e. sidewall damage or something significant with your sidewall, for the usable life of that tire, they won't prorate it, they'll just put a new one on, okay? Which we've used once already, and it's a good deal. I think it was 35 to 40 bucks per tire, which is a little more up front. But then you have the peace of mind that if something happens, you're not replacing that, you're not paying for a brand new tire. And that is, at this point, regardless of how the tire gets wrecked. So we'll just leave that there. So guys, if you have any other questions about a Jeep Grand Cherokee, how it should handle off-road, leave a comment below. Let us know what your questions are. There are some questions that we get a lot, and so I'd like to spend the next couple of weeks getting some videos out to kind of address those. Things that maybe you've heard online and thought, like, you know, V6 versus V8, which one should you get? You throw that question up on these forums and you're gonna get lots of strong opinions. What tire should I be putting on? Again, lots of strong opinions. What pressure should I be running? And you're gonna see online that there are folks that think bound and determined to say, if you don't do this, man, things are gonna melt down for you. So we're gonna be putting out some videos to just kind of explore, like, is that true? Is that what we've seen? And just kind of go from there. We've had the pleasure of going out off-roading with lots of other Jeep Grand Cherokee owners, lots of other folks in general, and so we've gotten to see different platforms, different tire configurations, air suspensions versus coils, and kind of get a sense and a feel for, are some of these things that you're hearing online, are they actually true? And so we're gonna put some videos out on that. Guys, if you like our stuff and you're not yet a subscriber, man, there are just a few easy ways that you can help us out. One of those is hitting that subscribe button, hit the bell next to it, to be notified when videos are coming out. Give us a thumbs up, and leaving a comment below actually really helps us. If you don't know what to write, tell us you like the video, you didn't like the video, tell me what you're driving. The engagement there is kind of what tells YouTube that, yes, this is a video worth watching, and it helps that video kind of rank its way up, and it helps our channel. So if you want to see more content like this, if you want to see our channel grow, those are some ways that you can help us out without having to spend any money. Now, if you have some money to spend, we've got merchandise online. I encourage you, if you haven't yet looked at that stuff, to go over to our website at www.prodigaloverland.com and click on that shop tab, and that's going to show you some hats and some shirts that we have. We also have stickers and patches. In addition to that, there's lots of content about different kind of gear that we use with links with that. And again, if you're looking to buy some gear, that's an easy way to support us. It doesn't cost you anything. Also, a big part of what we do and want to do is meet up with you guys out on the trail. And so there's events there. We have found with these events, if you're new to off-roading, and even if you're not, it's a great way to get out and to kind of have a safer experience out off-road, and potentially avoid a lot of headaches and issues that you might get if you just venture out off-road by yourself. So if you've not yet checked them out, I encourage you guys to do that. And again, all of this is just really easy things that you guys can do to help us keep giving you videos like this. Lastly, guys, if you've not yet checked out our Patreon page, that's another great way to support us. If you don't know what Patreon is, it's a way that you can spend just a little bit a month to help support our content. You get access to the videos earlier, and there's different tiers, and kind of the higher you get up in the tiers, the more kind of perks that you get. But more than anything, it's a way that you guys that watch our videos on a regular basis can help support us and the content we make. So we would sure appreciate you guys checking that out. You know, $5, $10, $25 a month can go a long way for us in helping us give you and produce this content. We would sure love to have you guys help support us. It goes a long way for us, both kind of financially, but just also as far as encouragement, to know that there's people out there that watch our stuff and like our stuff. Big thank you to our Patreons, for those of you that have already done that and continue to do that. Man, we couldn't do this without you. Again, it's such a boost to us to know that there are people willing to kind of financially support us a little bit to help us get off the ground and get going. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. Again, leave a comment below if you've got other ideas that you would like to see us kind of do within this series of answering common questions from the experience that we've kind of gathered out on the road. Hope you guys are well, and we will see you again real soon.